You post something online, and no one responds. You walk into a room, and no one looks up. You tell a story, and someone changes the subject halfway through. It's small, it's subtle, but it hurts more than you expected. And deep down, a question whispers, did I ever really matter to them? We all know what it feels like to be ignored, but being forgotten, that cuts deeper, because it's not just about this moment, it's about your place in the world. What if no one remembers your smile, your voice, the things you stayed up late building, saying, writing, loving? What if you disappeared and it didn't echo in anyone's heart? This isn't just insecurity. It's something older, something wired into the core of what it means to be human. Because to be remembered is to believe that your presence left a trace. In this episode, we're going to explore where this fear comes from, biologically, emotionally, and existentially. We'll look at how modern life intensifies it, and most of all, how chasing remembrance too hard can actually disconnect us from the people and the moments that matter most. Because maybe the real question isn't, will I be remembered? But rather, am I truly here right now while I'm alive? The evolutionary root of the fear. Long before social media, before letters, books, names etched in stone, there was a time when being forgotten wasn't just sad, it was fatal. Humans evolved to survive in groups, tribes, clans, communities. Being part of a collective meant food, fire, and protection from predators. To be left behind, to be cast out, to be forgotten, was to be exposed to the wild alone. And alone meant death. So our brains adapted. They became wired for belonging, wired to fear exclusion, wired to crave the feeling of being seen, acknowledged, remembered. It's why infants cry when a caregiver leaves the room, why silence in a conversation can feel unbearable, why being left out of a group chat can spark irrational anxiety. Because at a biological level, our brains still interpret being forgotten as a threat to our survival. This fear didn't come from weakness, it came from instinct. It was never about vanity, it was about staying alive. And even though the world has changed, even though we no longer need a tribe to find food or build shelter, that ancient wiring still pulses through us. So when no one texts you back, when your birthday is missed, when someone forgets your name at a party, it's not just a small thing. To your brain, it feels like danger, like invisibility, like being erased from the tribe you thought you belonged to. Understanding this doesn't remove the ache, but it does help you meet it with compassion. Because the fear of being forgotten isn't proof that you're broken. It's proof that you're human, and that your mind, even now, is still fighting to belong. Being remembered gives us a sense of significance. We don't just want to be remembered. We want to be remembered for something. A kind gesture, a brave choice, a sentence we said that someone carried with them for years. Because to be remembered isn't just about memory, it's about meaning. Psychologists call this existential validation, the belief that our existence mattered, that we weren't just a shadow passing through other people's lives. It's why we carve our names into trees, why we sign our work, why we take photos and write journals and leave notes behind. It's not vanity. It's a way of saying, I was here, I felt, I tried, I mattered. When someone remembers your birthday, your story, your favorite song, it tells your brain, I am seen. I exist in someone else's mental world. And that feels like safety. It also feels like love. But here's where it gets more complicated. In the search to feel significant, we sometimes confuse being remembered with being important. as if how many people remember you determines how much you are worth. We forget that the depth of being remembered often matters more than the scale. You can have thousands of followers, but no one who would notice your absence. Or you can have one person, just one, who truly knows your voice when it breaks, who remembers how you like your coffee, who still tells your story long after you've gone. And in that memory, you live. Not as a perfect idea, but as a presence that left a trace. So yes, being remembered makes us feel significant. But maybe the most powerful kind of significance is the one that doesn't need to be loud, just real. How modern life makes it worse. We live in the most connected time in human history, and yet somehow we feel more invisible than ever. Every day, we scroll past hundreds of lives. Weddings, promotions, perfect morning routines. We watch others being celebrated, shared, remembered, while we sit quietly, wondering if we're falling behind or falling out of view. Social media was built to amplify connection, but it also amplified something else, the fear of being irrelevant. Because in a world where everyone is posting, being unseen starts to feel like being erased. You don't get enough likes? Your brain reads it as rejection. No one reposts your thoughts? Your mind whispers, they didn't even notice you. And it's not just online. We live in a fast-moving culture, one that celebrates constant reinvention, one that says, move on, keep up, don't linger. But where does that leave our need to be held in someone's memory? Where does that leave the ache for continuity, to know that something about us lasts? Even our workplaces reward speed over presence. Even our friendships sometimes fade with a swipe. We start measuring our worth by visibility, as if being seen constantly is the only way to matter. But what we forget is this: being remembered doesn't require being broadcast. It doesn't require fame or followers or digital footprints. The people who remember you deeply probably aren't refreshing your profile. They're thinking of you when they pass your favorite place. They're telling someone your old joke. They're carrying a part of you in the quiet moments that never get posted. Still, modern life makes it harder to believe that. Because when the world moves fast and attention spans shrink, and the next big thing is always one scroll away, you start to wonder, will anyone hold on to me when the moment moves on? The cost of chasing remembrance. There's a strange irony in all of this. The more we fear being forgotten, the more we try to be unforgettable. We push harder, we speak louder, we shape ourselves into something shinier, stronger, more shareable. We chase legacy like it's a finish line, believing that if we leave enough behind, no one will ever truly let us go. But here's the cost no one talks about. When you are consumed with being remembered, you start performing instead of living. You filter your words to sound wise. You shape your story to impress, not to connect. You reach for what looks like meaning, and often lose the meaning altogether. Sometimes we even betray ourselves. We compromise our values, follow paths we don't believe in, cling to people who validate us publicly but don't hold us privately, all in the name of being remembered. Because deep down, we equate being seen with being safe. We think, if they remember me, I mattered. But the truth is, you can be remembered for the wrong things. You can be remembered by many and still not be truly known by anyone. We rarely ask ourselves, what kind of memory am I trying to leave? And more importantly, am I trading my truth for a place in someone else's story? Because chasing remembrance too hard can pull us away from the very things that would make us worth remembering. Connection, presence, integrity, joy. So maybe the goal isn't to be remembered by the most people. Maybe it's to be remembered rightly, by the people who saw us as we really were, and loved us anyway. What actually helps us be remembered? Think of someone you've never forgotten, someone who made you feel seen, not because they were famous, not because they shouted the loudest, but because in a small moment they showed up with their whole heart. That's the kind of presence that lingers, and that's the truth we often overlook. People remember how you made them feel, not how perfect you were, not how polished your life looked, not how many achievements you listed, just how real you were. We spend so much energy trying to leave a mark, but the marks that last, they're often invisible. A hand held when no one else noticed, a sentence spoken at the right time, a choice to stay when it would have been easier to walk away. Those moments don't go viral, they go deeper. And ironically, the people who are remembered the longest are usually the ones who weren't trying to be remembered at all. They were just present, consistent, human. So what actually helps us be remembered? Depth over width. Impacting a few lives deeply matters more than being seen by everyone superficially. Authenticity over performance. People remember the version of you that didn't try too hard, the one that laughed with them, cried with them, sat in silence without fixing anything. Value over visibility. It's not about how many people you impress, it's about how many people feel safe being themselves around you. And most importantly, people remember you not just by what you left them, but by how well you showed up for yourself. Because when you live in alignment with who you are, you don't just get remembered, you become unforgettable in the ways that truly matter. We all want to be remembered, but maybe what we want even more is to be known, to be felt, to be real. And maybe being forgotten isn't the greatest fear. Maybe it's being remembered for a version of ourselves that wasn't truly us. The truth is, you won't be remembered by everyone. You'll fade from some people's stories. You'll disappear from certain rooms. You'll outgrow timelines and conversations and seasons. But that doesn't mean you didn't matter. It doesn't mean you weren't worth remembering. Because your legacy isn't measured in how loud you were, but in how deeply you loved, in how fully you showed up, in the quiet ways your presence made someone else feel more alive. So if you're afraid of being forgotten, come back to this. You are not here to impress the world. You are here to touch it, to live truthfully, to choose kindness over performance, and to trust that the people who truly see you, the ones who carry your voice in their hearts, will never need a monument to remember you. They'll remember you because you were there, fully, honestly, you. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.